Hi, friends. So, I don't know about you, but lately there's been something in the air that's been calling me, beckoning me, begging me even to do a thorough redesign and declutter of the digital space that is my phone. I've been sliding into this bad habit of going on my phone when I find myself awake at night or even in the middle of my workday, which I really don't like to do. I'm ready for a change because I have a lot of better things to do this winter than scroll on my phone. This year, more than any other year, I've been craving a feeling of coziness, of hygge. I want to bake. I have a long list of books I want to read. I just started playing tennis again after 10 years. And at this point in my life, I would genuinely rather sit and do nothing than look at pretty much anything on my phone. And yet, I still find myself sucked in and scrolling way more than I want to. So today I want to do something about that. So in this video, I'm going to go step by step and take the unruly mess that my phone is now to a more streamlined, peaceful tool that better supports my lifestyle. And I thought we could do it together. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Amber. I'm a meditation teacher, and on this channel, I mainly post guided meditation classes to help you manage stress and anxiety. But I also make videos like this where I talk about how I'm trying to create a more peaceful, mindful life. And if you're trying to do the same, I hope that you will subscribe. Okay, so here's the brief for today. Number one, above all, I want to create simplicity. This is something that I want in every aspect of my life, from my business to my home, but most importantly, my tech. I want to set it up once and not think about it again. I don't want a system that I have to continually maintain. I just want it to work. The second item on our brief today is utility. As much as I do want to simplify, I don't want to make my phone completely useless, right? I do need my phone to sometimes order Ubers or pull up event tickets or scan QR codes. In the modern age, it's getting harder and harder to opt out of this technology entirely. And so my underlying framework for how I'm approaching this project is I want to think of my phone as a tool rather than a toy. What I'm really craving right now in this season of life is for my phone to do its job and nothing more, right? No entertainment, no distractions. I just want a pared back, carefully curated tool that supports me and my life. So whenever there's a decision to be made today, I'm going to ask myself, does this make my phone more of a tool or more of a toy? And that's going to be my guiding light. And then lastly, criteria number 3 is friction. We know from lots of studies that our environments hugely influence our behavior, and that goes for our digital environments as well. Since my goal is to spend more time in my real life and less on attention-grabbing apps, I need to make these apps a lot harder to get to. So with these 3 goals in mind, simplicity, utility, and friction, let's go ahead and get into my phone. Okay, so before we dive in and just start changing things right away, let me show you what we're working with. This is what my phone looked like before I made any changes. And it's not that bad, right? There are some things that I like about it. I've already made my wallpaper a plain white backdrop, both on the lock and home screen. And that's something that I like. I like a simplicity of a plain wallpaper. On the lock screen, you'll see that I've added the QR code that I use to scan into my gym. And this is a great example of using my phone as a tool rather than a toy. I like that when I go to the gym, I don't have to unlock my phone, right? Open my gym's app, pull up the QR code, and then scan it, right? I can just pull my phone out of my pocket, light it up, and the QR code is right there, ready to go. So that is one functionality that I would like to keep. So once we're in, you can see that I only have one page of apps, and that is on purpose. There are also a number of folders, and you can see that there are a lot of apps within these folders. And whenever I'm looking for a specific app, I would rather use the search function and just directly pull up exactly what I'm looking for, rather than having to flip through the pages to find what I'm looking for. And that's been a pretty good strategy so far. I like that philosophy, but I think we can execute this idea a little better today. So the very first thing I did is go through all of my apps and just delete the ones that I know I'm not using. There's no reason for them to be here. They're kind of low-hanging fruit in terms of digital declutter. And you can see that I wasn't super cutthroat at this stage, because a lot of these apps are useful even if I don't use them on a daily basis. For example, Skype, I don't really use except for when I talk to my grandparents sometimes, or Uber Eats, I maybe use a couple times a year. But when I do use them, I want them to be on my phone, ready to go. And I don't mind them being here because they're not really time wasters. When I'm not using them, I just forget that they're even here. Basically what I'm trying to create is how in Harry Potter, how Hermione has that beaded handbag that has the undetectable extension charm on it, right? The bag looks simple on the outside, but she can just summon up exactly what she needs from it. That's kind of what I'm trying to create with my phone, but just summon up the apps that I need rather than having to rummage around. So to help me do that, I also turned off Siri suggestions for the search bar so that when I do go to search for something, only the app I'm looking for shows up. Something I noticed is that before, when I would go to search for an app, Siri would suggest Pinterest or something, and then I would click on it and get distracted. And before I keep going, I want to mention that for a lot of us, doing a digital declutter like this isn't going to be quite enough to create a long-lasting, healthy relationship with our tech. Maybe sometimes you've noticed yourself using your phone to self-soothe in times of stress or to escape difficult emotions. I'm guilty of that as well. And so surface level solutions alone aren't going to be able to help you create deep, long-lasting change. To do that, we also have to really look inside at the habits and attachments that we've formed around our technology and fully understand what purpose it's serving in our lives and increase awareness around why we habitually turn to them for comfort or distraction. Deep, meaningful habit change through mindfulness is something that I teach in Become Club, which is my 7-week mindfulness and meditation program. And because you're watching this video, I'm going to make that lesson free as a sneak peek into the program. This lesson is usually only available to students of my program, but if you go to meditationwithamber.com/habits, you can get that lesson completely for free. So go to meditationwithamber.com/habits to get my lesson on changing your habits with mindfulness completely for free. Okay, let's get back to my phone. Okay, the next thing I did was download an app that's going to help us simplify our home screen called Blank Spaces. There's a 7-day free trial, and then after that you have the option to pay monthly or for lifetime access. I think lifetime access is $21, which if it helps me protect my time and attention, I think it's completely worth it. So once you're in the app, you're prompted to download the wallpaper. They have a few to choose from. They have a light colored one and a dark colored one. I went with the plain dark mode. And then you can just start adding your most important apps to the widget. So I actually ended up with just 5 apps, which I was surprised by. The ones that ended up on my home screen are Outlook, which has my email and my calendar, Messages, the Spotify app for music, the Athlete app, which has my workout program, and Apple Maps. And one really interesting thing is at this stage, I noticed that I felt the urge to keep adding apps. And I even thought briefly about adding a second page of apps. But when I was really honest with myself, I realized that these 5 are the only ones I really need to be able to click on from the home screen. All the other ones should be de-emphasized and I can search for them when I need them. And I played around in the settings of blank spaces for a while. You can change the font and the font size, but ultimately I stuck more or less to the default settings. Another thing you can do is change the names of the apps. And I made them lowercase, and you can see I changed Spotify to music, and I changed athlete to workout. I also briefly played around with the top widget, first changing it to a clock and the date, and ultimately I decided to just leave it blank. And then to keep things super streamlined, I also removed the apps from the dock. And this weirdly gave me like a feeling of anxiety, which I think is a sign that this is a good exercise for me to be doing. And I actually think this looks pretty good already, but as I mentioned before, I like having my gym key right on my lock screen. So I did a bit of a customization and I went into Canva and I just made a custom lock screen wallpaper which has my gym QR code as well as the barcode of the place where I play tennis. And it isn't the most aesthetically pleasing choice, but again, my mission here is to turn my phone into a tool rather than a toy. Okay, so as a finishing touch, the last thing I did was turn off almost all the notifications on my phone. And I was actually kind of surprised by the apps that had notifications. Like, why does the Notes app need to notify me? And this is where it got kind of interesting because at first I thought I wanted to have different settings according to my schedule. So ideally I would break up my day into kind of 3 big chunks. So I'd have my work hours, sort of from like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then I'd have my like relaxation, leisure hours from 5 to about 9. And then I'd have my sleep hours from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I sort of thought that I would allow myself to use certain apps at certain times of day and remove access to them during my work hours, for example. But the more I thought about it, I realized that I actually only need one setting and for it to be the same across all hours of the day. And I think what clicked into place for me is that during my work hours, I want to focus on my work, but my leisure and sleep hours should equally be protected from distractions on my phone because I may not be working, but there are still things that I would rather do than be on my phone. And so what I decided is to turn off all notifications except for messages and phone calls. And this works for me because I don't really have that problem of being added to like a bunch of group texts that can get distracting throughout the day. Really, the only people who text me are people in my immediate circle, so I actually don't mind getting notified. But actually, with my messages, I thought about this for a little while because I actually like the idea of converting all communication, so that's email or messages, into a pull communication. And if you don't know the difference between push and pull communications, push communication is actively pushed to you and grabs your attention, whereas pull communication is information that you have to actively seek out. And I kind of like the idea of having email and messages be pull communications so that once a day I just go into my messages and all of my text messages are there and I can answer them all at the same time. However, what I realized is I actually don't trust myself to go and pull those messages. I actually have a problem of not being very reachable by text. My friends and family are all very patient about this, but sometimes it can take me like weeks to organize a coffee just because I don't text very much. And so by having the messages app front and center like this, my hope is that when I do get bored and I sort of go on my phone, because it's one of just 5 apps, I'll be more likely to open my messages and connect with my friends and family. And funny enough, before this declutter, I was actually thinking about buying a new phone. But now that I've made these changes, I'm actually struggling to remember why I thought I wanted one. Because this phone, the one that I have now, it does everything that it needs to do. And now I'm free to play more tennis and read more fantasy novels, and I'm really happy about that. Before you go, don't forget to grab the free lesson on habit change through the link in the description box, and I'll see you again very soon.